Well, I always say in life you can't have everything. If you find a place
Mm-hmm.
like Paraguay
Exactly.
and it offers you such a great tax incentive, it's a
Mm-hmm.
territorial tax system, which means that any income derived from overseas is not taxed in Paraguay. And any
Mm-hmm.
income generated from within its borders, so within Paraguay, is taxed at 10%, right? That's
Yeah.
income and corporate taxes. I mean, that's a great place for an entrepreneur to thrive in
Mm-hmm.
because other places, they tax you to hell. They tax you
Mm-hmm.
50% if you fall into the highest income bracket.
Yeah.
And so with Paraguay, yeah, you may not get the government benefits because there just isn't enough money there. You haven't paid enough money in taxes, but you can access a very cheap labor force there and a highly skilled labor force too. Many people
Mm-hmm.
speak English fluently there, including yourself. I mean, you're very educated, you're intelligent, and that is not so easy to find in many developing countries. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think it's great. I just wanted to touch on a few more points here, which is that you did point out that Paraguay was kind of strict during certain times of the pandemic, and I think they had to be because, in the initial phases, the virus you just don't know how severe the variant is,
Yeah.
and so that's completely understandable, right? But as the virus
Mm-hmm.
mutates, it gets softer and softer and softer.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are some other things that need to be taken into consideration as well, including the median age in that country. And the median age in Paraguay, and that's as of February 2023, so that might change in a couple of years' time. But as of
Mm-hmm.
right now, the median age in Paraguay is just 25.6 years. That means out of two
Super
people,
young.
one person is younger than 25.6 years, and
Exactly.
another person is older than 25.6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And from what we know from COVID, is that healthy young people, slim people that are not obese, have almost no chance of getting severely
Mm-hmm.
sick from COVID, not even from the Delta variant, the toughest one,
Mm-hmm.
right? No chance. So the people that were most at risk were elderly people, sick people, and obese people. And if
Mm-hmm.
you don't have that in your population, then something like a strong flu is just not going to kill you. What I want to compare here is, for instance, a country like Italy or Japan, which has a much higher median
Mm-hmm.
age per adult than a country like Paraguay, had to take a lot more precautions because they got to protect their old population. For instance,
Cool.
Italy has, I think, a median age of like 25, 45 or 46 years. And Japan
Mm-hmm.
has like the oldest median age in the entire world. For those countries, it makes sense because if they have like 5% of the population dying, it would be a
Mm-hmm.
disaster, or 10%. So they had to take serious precautions and measurements to avoid that from happening. But the point I was trying to make before about Asia is that those countries in Southeast Asia, I mean, first of all, they have a very young population. The median age is just slightly higher than it is in Paraguay. We're talking 29 to 32 years in most countries. Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, very low median age per adult in those countries. So in those countries, and also considering that most of those people are healthy, they're slim, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
given all these factors, it just didn't make much sense other than trying to put pressure on the population, especially when it comes to letting people come back into the country. And so, when you forbid your residents, when you forbid your investors, when you forbid people have a legal long term visa to come back in, I think you're shooting yourself in the foot. I think you're creating a picture of yourself that is connected with a person nobody wants to deal with, because who wants to be with a person like that? Like, if you couldn't go back, and I've spoken to many people over the course of that pandemic who could not go back, even if they were vaccinated, could not get back in the Philippines, for instance, for a very long time. And then some places they couldn't go back if they were unvaccinated for a long time. It's like profiling those people, you know? Like, if those vaccines were so effective, they wouldn't need to do that anyway, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
problem is, of course, they got bad vaccines from China, the cheap ones, ineffective ones, and those were the only ones they could afford until Europe
Mm-hmm.
started sending some their way, and then
Mm-hmm.
it helped them, of course. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that because I'm trying to compare continents here, I'm trying to compare Latin America with Europe and Southeast Asia, so we can see what really happened. In Europe, for instance, it was also tight in many countries. Lockdowns, crazy lockdowns, put a lot of businesses out of business. Austria, for instance, Italy. But Italy has a very old population. So I can kind of resonate with that more than in Asia. So there was more of a justification in that specific country. Yet, okay, Italy still allowed their residents and citizens to come back in. Of course, there were requirements to follow, like a test and maybe quarantine, but after time it was just a negative test and that was it. Now in Asia, even if you were vaccinated, you still had to quarantine. You were still treated like turtle in a little box where you could not go out for a long time. And so I think that Latin America did good, got a young population, very liberal. Europe did what Europe had to do to protect its old population, but Europe still acted rationally. Rationally. Asia acted irrationally, completely repressive, absolutely not logical by any means how they had reacted during COVID. It's completely unjustified, and you can't understand why they did what they did, other than trying to control the population, which worked pretty well. You told me that you could protest against certain things in Paraguay. Good luck with that in Asia. You could not do that in Asia. You would get
Yes.
arrested for protesting.
Oh,
That is not
yeah.
an option. You can do that in Europe. You can do it in Latin America. You cannot do that in the Middle East. You cannot do that in Southeast Asia. You would get arrested in a heartbeat without
Mhm.
even thinking. If you say, "Can I do that?" Hell no. You better not do that, because like it is not allowed to do that. All you can do in Asia is bend over. Just bend over a little bit more and get, what you need to get in order to, not get in trouble. So I kind of learned my lesson during that time, and I just know that for me, this phase of my life, this chapter is over. And a lot of people feel like that, and a lot of people are looking for alternatives because they don't want to live in a repressive society. They don't want to be under government control like during COVID. And so that part of the world just lost its reputation completely, I think. The people that are still going back, mostly people that are, like really tied to that region, that have like a family, that have like kids, or they're really true supporters. Like they love the region so much that it doesn't matter what would happen, they would still go back there. No matter what would happen, they would still go back there. But then there are people like me who didn't have these serious ties, or people who also got really fed up that said, "Oh, I'm never going back there. This is it for me. This is it. No chance in hell I'm going back there after this treatment. Hell no. No way. I'm not going back there." So those people are the people that we're focusing on, because those people need help. Those people, they want to try something different. And I always say that life is a buffet. If you go to a buffet, you're not going to get a plate and put everything that you have on there. There's not enough space for that. So what you
Mhm.
do when you go to a buffet, Jesse, is you take a plate and you hope it's hot, you hope it's clean. You get maybe 2 or 3 options, right? You try the buffet, you try what you think is best for you, and guess what? If you like it, you get more. You get more,
Mhm.
right? You refill the plate. If you don't like it, you're not going to get more of that. You try something else. And so I think that's how people need to approach the world today. What worked 5 years ago may not work anymore.
Yeah.
And it's really important to be open minded. And, people say that Asia is very forward thinking. Asia is the future. Asia is the future for who? Not for us. Not for us. Maybe for their people, but not for us. Look at how they treated us during COVID. It's not our future. We cannot own property. We cannot become a citizen. We cannot own 100% of a company. Nothing. So it's not our future. Maybe it's the future of a few rich people, possible, but the
Mhm.
majority of people living in the majority of countries have no future in that region. And so that's where we advise people to look at different options. And there are many options, right? There's Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Africa, Latin America, much better places.
Example, I just wanted to add everything that you were talking about, because I also have a lot of friends who travel a lot and who are constantly trying to hack the life and try to find many solutions. Because and what we always talk with them, for example, is how the government treats everyone. It's like you, if you are going to a territory, you have no option to negotiate or have an agreement. So basically, if you go somewhere or if you born somewhere, it's not like slavery, but actually you born and you are automatically need to accept everything because the government won't treat you as a customer. The language is very limiting, for example. So if we just try to see another perspective, like you say, like governments are not changing, they are not molding, they are not changing or reforming their policies, for example, they are not doing it. And the actors in the government are not treating you as a customer. It's like you born there or you are going there looking for something and you automatically need to, it's like you don't sign anything, you just go there and you need to accept this and that, like you said, like you can have families, investments there, but you never know what can happen in the future because the government won't negotiate with you. You just need to accept everything that's happening in your life. And I think that's why many countries like Paraguay, Panama, or Uruguay that are more liberal became new centers, not only for business but also to just to live a simple life also, because if you're not content in the country that you were born or you decided to live for a while, the only option you have, at least as a digital nomad or someone that can move from other countries or decide to move, to all the time investigate. It's like now you can choose where you can have your health system, where you can have your health insurance or your bank or your residency or your family or your business. Unfortunately, we cannot do it always in the place we were born, but now if we can, if we investigate a bit more and see what can be more convenient with our, for example, like you said, like my ethics, my moral, because of my ethics and my morals, I cannot come back to Asia, a country that treats people a bit authoritarian or not considering their personal interests, for example. So if you can investigate, if you have the opportunity to move, it's really good to investigate these countries, like you say, Western Europe or Paraguay or Panama or Uruguay, because people are coming here for one reason, and for many reasons actually. And I think it's a really, really good idea if you are like sure, opting to out or just, I think most people are not trusting anymore. I think there are some percentage of people that don't trust anymore in their countries. For example, one of the countries that has the highest trusting in their people is China, for example. But sometimes in these kind of countries, like you said, you cannot protest, you cannot post things on social media, I'm against my government, because you will be, I don't know, investigated, arrested, limited somehow. So it's quite difficult to know the reality if you are not there. Like you say, if something bad don't happen to you, always you will see from outside and see, oh, China.
I'm really glad that we had the time to discuss this today, Jesse. Thank you, and I look forward to our next call.
Thank you, Gerald.
Subscribe now and turn on alerts to never miss any of my future nomadism, dating, and business advice videos. Thank you for watching.